Major opposition political parties questions NPP's demand for the EC to state its official position on recommendations by the 5-member panel set up to examine concerns about the voters' register. The party says it is strange that the elections regulatory body is yet to make its official position on the proposals known.
What the NPP is saying now is that the middle way that has been proposed by the Electoral Commission's own committee, we think that that should be the basis for cleaning the register.
The PPP, the CPP and the PNC say the Electoral Commission has officially responded to them on this issue and therefore do not see grounds for this demand. So what exactly does the new Patriotic Party want? We'll get to engage some of these major opposition political parties and also get the NPP into this discussion to tell us what exactly they want. This is today's big story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. The new Patriotic Party is of the view that the failure of the EC to make its position public takes a lot away from the process of ensuring that the voters' register is credible. Let's listen to the party's communications director, Nana Akomia.
The committee clearly rejected the method of exhibition of the register. The committee clearly rejected it and said that it was not viable, that the exhibition could at best provide for an update of the records, that people could go up and check their names. My name is Kwachi Nuama. I go and this Kwachi Nuama is there. Maybe the spelling is wrong, so I correct it. So I make sure my name is there. I make sure the spelling is correct. I make sure my details, my house number and all of that are correct. That's an update of my records. And the exhibition would be adequate for that purpose. But in cleaning the register, which would involve making sure that records that should not be there are not there, that is cleaning the register, the exhibition method would not be adequate. You say the new register may not be doable at this time. Okay. So you want to do exhibition. You appoint a panel. The panel has come with a middle way. All we are saying is that let's begin to get a consensus on what the panel says should be done. That is all that we are saying. Whether you call it validation, whether you call it confirmation, whatever you call it, we just say that what the Electoral Commission's own panel has recommended, let's do it. Let's meet, get a consensus to do it. Because this suggestion is not coming from any political party. It is coming from the Electoral Commission's own committee, set up to give a faithful report and recommendation on this matter. Why should there be a difficulty? Why should there be a controversy? There shouldn't be any difficulty in the Electoral Commission accepting and building consensus to implement what the committee has said. Will the Electoral Commission be going ahead with the exhibition process as a way to clean the register when its own panel has shown very clearly that the exhibition process will not be viable in cleaning the register? Because as we all know, the integrity of the voters' register is at the center of having credible, acceptable elections. All of us know that this register hasn't got the needed integrity. The Electoral Commission, fortunately, has appointed a committee. The committee has brought up a middle way. What the NPP is saying now is that the middle way that has been proposed by the Electoral Commission's own committee, we think that that should be the basis for cleaning the register. I don't understand it. That's a question that will be best answered by the Electoral Commission. Because you set up this panel. The panel has used public funds. They sat for some period. These are eminent people. They spend their time, their energy, their resources, their expertise. They've come out with a report, very clear. The Electoral Commission up to speak, and the panel report has been available for at least 4 or 5 months. They haven't commented. So we also find it quite strange.
And what do you think this takes away from the entire process?
What we believe is that if you've appointed a panel and they've brought a report, at least put the report, let's see what aspects can be used, and if some aspects cannot be used, why they cannot be used. So at the very least, the Electoral Commission could have convened an IPAC meeting and said, this is the recommendation of my panel. Let's see what aspects we can adopt to clean the register. That has not been done. We find it quite strange, and it takes away from the process.
What does it take? That's what I'm asking. What does it take away?
Well, if you appoint a panel and the panel has brought a report and you totally ignore it, it takes away from the process. At least, let's even consider it and let's all take a decision as to whether we'll work with it or not. That hasn't happened.
But truth be told, Nana Komia, we also know that after the panel finishes report, the Electoral Commission wrote officially to the MPP, the General Secretary, more precisely, stating why they couldn't implement some of the recommendations you were asking for. For example, on that letter they wrote to the General Secretary, they talked about this issue of having some foreigners on the register and all that. That explains.
The Electoral Commission says it cannot work with our proposals. That's why it appointed a panel to look into the best way of coming out. So if you have rejected our proposal, your own panel has come with a proposal. Are we rejecting that one too? That's our point. We're saying that the panel says that it's coming with a middle way between exhibition and a new register. So let's take that as a minimal point and start with it. That's what we are saying.
And you want the Commission to publish this report, state the official position on the report, say within how many days?
We don't know why. The report has been available for the last five months or so. And that committee was not put up by the NPP or the NDC, or it was put up by the Electoral Commission. So if you put up a committee and the committee has made a report, there seems to be no comment on the report. It's quite strange.
You want them to state your official position on that report as soon as?
Yes, it will be very, very useful.
We can now do some analysis on the issue, and Deputy Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party, Anthony Cabo, is on the phone. Good evening to you, Anthony. Thanks for your time.
Good evening, my sister. How are you?
Very well, thank you. But first of all, what does the NPP mean by official response?
I mean, it's very self-explanatory. An official response, a response coming from the only independent Electoral Commission of Ghana.
I'm asking this because I know the EC has officially written to you.
No, but the EC hasn't officially written to us in respect of the recommendations that their own independent panel have recommended to them to take actions for. We have been given the documents of that report. We have studied the report, and we are saying that if the Electoral Commission will not respond to our issues, well, then their own report, their own panel that was put up by them, which did a public listening for all Ghanaians to follow, have submitted a report. What are they doing with that report? What are they doing with the recommendations of that report? I think it's a very important, legitimate concern that the political party is raising. And so we should get the response from the Electoral Commission on that matter.
So this letter that was written to you by the Electoral Commission, what was the details of that letter?
I think this press conference has nothing to do with the letter written to us by the Electoral Commission. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. This has to do with the Electoral Commission's own report, which they put together and copied political parties. The VC CRAP report is what we are talking about. And I think that we haven't gotten an official response from the Electoral Commission in respect of what their position is about the various recommendations that has been made by the panel. So the question is, what is the official response of the Electoral Commission? For us in the MPP, we side with many of the things that the Commission's report has stated.
The other political parties were also written to write, but they consider that as enough explanation to mean that the EC has taken a stance.
So the EC has taken a stance against their own panel's report. Is that the position? That would be very interesting, because they wouldn't have had any reason. There would be no reason to set up a panel or a committee to set up a panel to come up with a report if the Electoral Commission has its own position. I mean, and I would have expected that they would have followed through the recommendations of the panel. And in that panel recommendation, they indicated a couple of things which the Electoral Commission must do. So the parties must serve as watchdogs to ensure that these recommendations made by the panel are followed through.
Are you asking for this because, for instance, the EC's position does not, conform to what you really wanted it to be, or it's just that they have not taken a position?
The EC appears to be running away from the recommendation of the panel, and that is what amazes everybody, because they set up this panel. When we brought our proposals and submitted our proposals to the Electoral Commission, the various parties were asked to send their proposals. They are decided to set up a committee and ask all parties to come and make presentations to this committee. That was done. It was done in public. Every Ghanaian saw it. A report emanated from that commission. Eventually, that report indicated certain line items that must be followed. And the Electoral Commission appears to be working at variance with their own panel recommendations. And that is what is quite intriguing. And that's why we're raising this issue. We agree fully with what the committee has put out, and I think that is what our position of the press conference has been today.
This whole issue was raised by the MPP and supported by the other major opposition political parties, but they seem to differ on this one, because they feel the MPP is asking for too much. Is it fair to say the MPP is simply trying to make the EC look bad?
No, I don't think that would be fair comment to make, to say that the MPP is trying to make the Electoral Commission look bad. I mean, when you are going into a critical election and every political party wants the game to be fair, transparent, and unbiased, I mean, you would have to raise critical issues about the electoral roll call, and this is not new. I mean, the NDC in 2000 raised issues about the bloated register. I mean, in 2004, they raised issues about the bloated register. And so we are raising issues about the bloated register because the continuous problem we are having in this country, and we all have to come together. I don't think that the political parties themselves disagree that indeed our electoral roll call is bloated and certainly must be cleaned. Make sure that we do not have foreign elements, we do not have minors in the register. And according to the Electoral Commission's own report, after the 2012 election, indicated that their electoral roll call is bloated by over some 400,000 names. The question is, how do we resolve that problem? How do we get those people out of the register? And we are saying that if you look at the panel's report which was submitted, they suggested ways and means of cleaning up the register, one of which had to do with actually validating the people on the roll call, and also they disapproved the idea that an exhibition will deal with the problem, because according to the report was quite clear that we have always had these exhibitions over and over and over and over again, yet still our register gets bloated by the year. By every other election, it is bloated. As we speak, the current register, which we are going to open it up and add more names onto it, is bloated by some over 400,000 names. How do we deal with that going into this election?
Anton Kaba, I have you hold, because in the studio with me is Atik Mohammed, is General Secretary of the PNC. Good evening. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
So how do you respond to this demand by the MPP?
Well, the demand for, if I may,
that the Electoral Commission should state their stance on the recommendations by the committee.
I think, let me say good evening to your viewers. I think their position has been very clear from the word go. After the panel was done with its work, they wrote to us indicating that, look, these are the recommendations that the panel had made. They disagreed with some of them and agreed with some of them, and at the end stated clearly what they wanted to do. And so from the word go, they've been very clear about what they want to do. It's not as if the Electoral Commission hasn't taken any position. And the position is that they want to audit the register, which is, I mean, which position finds favor with the opinions expressed by political parties such as mine. So if anybody says there is inclarity or ambiguity about their position, I think the person probably is not privy to the information coming from the Electoral Commission to political parties. They made that point quite forcefully.
Anthony, you heard him clearly. Is it that the position the Electoral Commission has taken does not favor you, and that's why you're requesting for this? Or indeed, what are you referring to official, states of the recommendation?
Into a banter with my brother Atik Mohammed. I mean, if the PNC haven't looked at the report and they are satisfied with it, it is within their right to be satisfied. They are an entirely different political organization, and they have a view to state their position on matters. As far as we are concerned in the MPP, this is our position, and after perusing through the document, we have issues. We have issued a statement. We are saying that we want the Electoral Commission. We agree with a lot of the recommendations made by the panel, and we think that the Electoral Commission should state clearly what their position on these matters are, because all these matters are supposed to help resolve the bloated register that we have. And so I don't want to be in a banter with my brother. He speaks for a political party. He's stating their view, but this is our view, which we are forcefully making very clear to the Ghanaian people.
Okay, I'll have you hold again, then I'll speak to Atik for the last time. Atik, so this is what the NPP is asking for. To you, it's enough. Could you share, for the sake of this conversation, could you share with us some of the highlights of the letter that was sent to you by the Electoral Commission?
Yes, as the General Secretary of my party, a letter was sent to me, and I think that was subsequent to what the panel did. And it was very clear. They told us that the conclusion of the panel was that arguments in favor of a new register were unconvincing. And for which reason they don't think that there should be a new register. And the Electoral Commission said they stick and they agree with that decision, and that they were not going to have a new register. However, they were going to engage in an audit process. And the truth is that subsequent IPAC meetings, anytime the issue of voter register comes up, it's always been about how to audit the register. So for me, I mean, Kabo is right to say that their political party have a different opinion. I mean, nobody can begrudge them for having a different opinion. But the truth is that, indeed and in fact, the Electoral Commission wrote to us stating clearly what their position is. And even in that letter, before that letter, they were very clear about what they wanted to do. They just needed some guide, taking into consideration all kinds of views and so on. But they made the point that they will not be bound, or they would not be bound by whatever the panel decides to do. However, they'll be guided by it. And in the letter to us, they were very clear that they were going to audit the register, which, for me, is clear enough a position.
Atik Mohammed, thanks so much for your time on today's big story. He's General Secretary of the PNC. On the other phone line is Kofi Sian. He's also the political advisor of the PPP. Good evening to you, Kofi. Thanks for your time on today's big story.
Yes, good evening.
Kofi, you also disagree with the latest demand by the NPP. Why?
Well, first of all, the issue they raised was, if you like, the demand or request for a formal notification from the Electoral Commission as far as its position on the report of the eminent panel was concerned. But we are in a position to say that when the report was delivered, it was published on the EC website. There was a communication that is announcing from the EC that they have received the document and they were studying it. Subsequent to that, the political parties have received both, if you like, hard copy correspondence and electronic mail on the EC's intention, subsequent to the report of the eminent panel, intention to have some means to audit the voters register. As far as we in the PPP are concerned, we think that the EC has responded to the matter. What we find difficult is the measures they have listed to use to audit the register. We are of the position that none of the 5 or 4 things listed will be able to clean the register. But as far as responding to the matter is concerned, yes, they have decided to take some steps, but those 4 things they have enumerated that they are going to rely on to clean the register, in our case, ineffective.
I think, Kofi, following this letter by the Electoral Commission, has this discussion ever come up at IPAC?
Yes, we have. Even the last meeting that we had last week, it was, I think, the main issue on the agenda. What seems to be, it was actually on matters arising, which meant that we had discussed it previously. So last Thursday we discussed it. I think what is slowing down the process is the fact that the exhibition period itself is not due, because all the measures that the EC outlined in the document or proposed measures will take place during the exhibition period, and the exhibition period is not now. So you realize that we can't see the steps taken now because the time is not due. The second issue is that, and when we got the briefing from IPAC, was that there's another matter at the Supreme Court which borders on steps to be taken to clean the register as far as the proposal from the Abu Ramadan case is concerned. So the EC seems to be engaged at this stage with their responses to the Supreme Court matter, and what that will mean in case of any decision that the court will make. This will be its own plan for exhibition period where these measures will be rolled out. So all of us are kind of, if you like, immobilized by the Supreme Court matter, and we are not sure of what the decision will be, and that is what's affecting the Electoral Commission itself.
So going by the letter that the Electoral Commission sent to you, has the EC stated a clear position on how it intends to clean the register?
Yes, like I said, it's a very interesting proposal. The first one is that they're supposed to have public education, and they will have public education on the consequences of violating the electoral law. So, for example, if you are not supposed to register and you register, the consequences will be told the people of Ghana. So that is option number one. Option number two is that they were going to grant amnesty for non-Ghanaian minors and eligible, those who were not qualified to register, to come and remove their names voluntarily. And I'm sure beyond the amnesty period, they may take steps to prosecute people. But that one has not been stated expressly. And even if they intend to prosecute, I don't know how they will do it, because who will tell them that this person is a minor? The other one is that the families of deceased people must approach the EC during the exhibition period to say that Mr. A or Mr. B is no more, and therefore his name must be removed from the register, of course, backed by evidence. And then the final one is the normal challenge process, where you can go to them and say that this person or that person is not qualified to be on the register, and you go through this constituency challenge form completion, go to review committees, and so on and so forth. As far as we are concerned, all these measures will not in any way be able to audit the register. Because if you are a minor and I've registered for my party and I want to vote for my party and I will not be caught in any way, why should I take advantage of some amnesty promise from the Electoral Commission for me to go and remove my name? People will not step forward. So these measures for us are not far-reaching enough. The only way where we can have a reference point is to have and demand an effective national identification system that will become the reference point for registration and for challenging people who are not eligible. Once that is absent, all these measures and the things the Electoral Commission has put in place, it's much ado about nothing. Nothing will come out of that process.
Well, many thanks to Kofi Sian, his policy advisor of the PPP. Thanks so much for your time. Anthony, if you're still on the line, having listened to some of the major political opposition political parties, I'm tempted to ask this question. Is it a revision of the Electoral Commission stance that you want, or indeed you feel the Electoral Commission has not stated its position and you're demanding it to do so?
Yeah, we think that having a panel, submit a report to you, what is allowed in governance practice is for you to tell us which are the recommendations you've accepted and state your position on the matter. We haven't gotten that. A meeting was convened by IPAC, parties were brought together, the matter was tabled. But what is the Electoral Commission's own position on the matter? I think that we are quite clear. Both parties who have been speaking agree that the electoral roll has been bloated. It doesn't deviate from the point that the MPP is making about the fact that the register has been bloated. We need to find the most comprehensive and and all-inclusive and indeed transparent mechanism to ensure that we audit this register and make it ready for the election. Because we can't go into this election with the over 400,000 names which the Electoral Commission themselves indicated were on the electoral roll, which were bloated, which has resulted in this bloat. We can't go into this election with this particular register in its current form because all the parties agree that indeed it is problematic. And I think that people should not always draw this sharp conclusion that we need all political parties to agree with us before we're able to raise an issue. We normally will not get that. We are major stakeholders in this political enterprise.
So for you, the Electoral Commission has not stated a clear position, and they must do that.
We need a clear position on the matter. We need to understand what is happening. We are just 7 months into this election, and we don't know the processes that are going to put in place to resolve the discrepancies on our register.
Well, many thanks to you, Anthony Carbo. That's all time will allow us. Thanks so much for your time on today's Big Story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. We'll be looking at the issue of MPP demanding for a clear position to be stated by the Electoral Commission. You heard all the opposition major political parties, what they had to say. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Once again, good evening.